It is recording. I don't use the computer for recording very often. The lighting shows off all my lovely, lovely wrinkles that I have spent a lifetime acquiring and achieving. Many, many long sleepless nights. It's not easy to get good wrinkles. You gotta smile when you don't want to. So, watching. Yeah, we're going to get disturbed and interrupted because I'm upstairs and I've got a dog that wants to rush the clock. No, you have a half an hour. So we're going to get interrupted. But I wanted to talk about this idea of punishing people. I was listening to someone talk about how he felt bad for homeless people, and he specifically phrased, because you don't know how some of them got out there. I thought, well, what difference would that make? And oh yeah, I remember. We want to make sure that people who don't comply with our social rules are punished for it. Why? Why are we still punishing people? And then I thought I'd get on here and talk to you about it. Why do we still think we need to punish people to enforce social rules, to control each other, and to make each other behave in certain ways? Now, the first reason we have for wanting people to behave within certain parameters is to help us overcome our fear of each other. Like they say, I don't think it's true, but they say that handshaking was because you were extending your sword arm was a way of proving that you were not carrying weapons, and it was an issue of trust. And certainly, when we're dealing with each other, it is very important that we make an extra effort to show our trustworthiness, transparency. So one reason we want people to conform to certain behavioral norms is for that transparency, that trust, that comfort. And I think even people who have difficulty figuring out social rules comprehend that much. And I have noticed when I've seen footage of people being taken down by the police unreasonably, they all use the same gesture. Every last one of them, they understand the most basic human, I'm homeless. And they still get taken down because they're also doing, making a lot of noise, and people are cowards. That's going to take a while to fix. This idea that we have to punish them, and that punishment is a useful tool. Yes, the other thing that led to this today was one of these r/video, videos where people read. I don't think it was r/ himself, but anyways, it was a video where people read off of Reddit or wherever. And one of the things, it was like about insane parents, and one of the things was someone had posted, my baby's 2 months old and won't stop crying, and I smacked him and smacked him, and it just seems to make it worse. How hard am I supposed to smack my baby to make him stop crying? As if baby smacking was a thing. It's like, oh yeah, we programmed it with an accelerometer in the tummy, and you have to whack it really hard to turn off the switch. Like, what are these people thinking? 2 months old. And I actually had to stop watching the video at that point because I was so empathically upset for this child. And by extension, all of the children, and then all of the unhappy people in the world. It just went blah, 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 blah. And then tonight, hours later, bam, someone again thinks that there are conditions under which homelessness is acceptable. And the only condition under which homelessness is acceptable is the one of choice, where the homeless person prefers it that way. And believe me, they're out there. You know they're out there. I know they're out there. There are people who really don't mind sleeping in the cold compared to dealing with all of the problems that come with keeping house. And about the only thing you could do for someone like that is provide them with some form of isolated shelter that someone else does maintenance on. You know what I'm saying? And where they can just actually be as alone and quiet and peaceful as they are under the bridge or down by the river, because these people are, it's not punishment for them to be alone anyway. So then we have the question of, well, why are we punishing people? What's with punishment? We punish our children. We punish our dogs. We punish our cats. We punish our spouses. We punish our friends. We punish our employees. We punish our employers. We punish. What is punishing? Causing someone unhappiness, discomfort, or worse, in hopes that it will teach them something of value. And it's not necessarily a relatable. I mean, I think that when you tie the punishment to the event, it becomes more of an empathy-building exercise and less of a punishment. Although they may feel negative about it, you're tying it in well enough that you're actually creating an empathy moment. Whereas, taking someone and sticking them in a horrible place for 5 years or 10 years or the rest of their life, throwing things at them, causing them pain and abuse. Pain and abuse in general, it does not teach. And in the case of, putting someone in a terrible situation similar to what they created for someone else, it's the teaching that has value there, not the terrible situation. And if you could teach it a kind of way, I would really want to. And this is in a society now. We can't seem to figure out a better way to teach each other things except to continue whacking each other, whether it's metaphorically speaking or physically. Why? This is a society with such a highly tuned science around the art of public manipulation that they were able to put a sociopathic moron with too much money, an entitled brat, on the throne of one of the most powerful nations on the planet, in charge of billions of people for 4 whole years, and couldn't even get rid of it because too many people were on his side. How do you get people on the side of someone like that? By appealing to the things that they want to be appealed to, by speaking in the language they understand, by hiring people who have a PhD in media relations. Media relations, public relations, is a catch-all phrase for public manipulation and psychology. When you take these classes, as I have done, you learn about how to appeal to subconscious responses. You learn about how to manipulate color and mood and taste and aroma and all of the senses. You learn how to manipulate people's childhood memories, how to adjust their memories, how to affect the memories of children now to create a certain kind of people later. And this has been going on. I'm 56. This was already a science by the time I was getting into grade school. And at each stage of my education, by some quirk of coincidence, I have had at least one teacher in my school who was into this stuff and saw in me enough ability to comprehend, and or taught a whole class in it at some point. Yeah, actually. I had one teacher in grade school who was teaching me this stuff personally, directly. He would give me recess detention. And he had figured out, I was in grade 6 by then, and all of the teachers had figured out that I would do whatever I could to get detention over recess, and lunch, because the children were so cruel to me that it was the safest thing I could do. And of course I was a nice person, so I never did anything nasty, I just acted up. I just mouthed off. I just did something that I knew was against the rules. And so they would give me detention because all the other kids expected it. And sometimes some teachers were like, "Yeah, I know what you want, and your punishment is going to be to go face what you don't want to face," which was an undisciplined herd of monkeys who all saw me as a punching bag, overseen by one teacher who was busy having a smoke around the corner. It was not good. Well, I'd say punching bag. If anyone got physical, I had a habit of holding my lunch bag or any heavy object at arm's length and spinning in a circle as fast as I could, screaming. And it was a way of saying, don't physically assault me. you will get whacked really hard if you try to get within the orbit of this book bag, lunch bag, box, whatever. However, it was so entertaining to watch this whirling dervish that they would push me to that limit by any means necessary. Upshot being, all the adults said, you deserve that for not responding correctly to the kids. All the kids said, we don't like you anyway. And I spent a lot of time in detention. One of those teachers taught me about media relations. That was my introduction to the science of advertising. And it has fascinated me ever since, because I immediately started watching the advertising on my television, Saturday morning cartoons, and recognizing it and going, oh, wow. It's like, I'm 12 years old, 11, 12 years old, and I'm looking at this thing going, oh, wow. I had no idea. And then year after year, there was always at least one class on this subject, where I always came across some information. And continued in university also to take classes on this when they were offered, because I thought, I want you to know this, and everybody doesn't know. I'll tell as many people as I can. There are professionals with PhDs in psychology and media relations whose job it is to affect your mind, your outlook, your point of view, your opinion, the way you feel about things on every level of existence, for the purpose of turning you into the perfect consumer. Somebody who spends not only your own energy, but that of your children and your children's children in the form of debt to try and keep up as described for you by corporate interests. And that you will not trust your government, or even bother your government, or in any way interfere in what your government is doing, in any way communicate or pay attention to what your government is doing, except to say that they're all a bunch of crooks and they should be obliterated. Reason being, government is the only wall between us and private interest. Private interest is self-centered people, selfish people with selfish interests, willing to use media relations to do whatever it takes to achieve their agendas and goals, which is strictly profit. Profit for the small handful of people, shareholders, wealthy people, that they serve. And so this private interest groups, this collection of human beings, are seeking to use the rest of us abusively. And our government is supposed to be our shield against it, the way that we say no. The government does things like saying, oh, you have to give your employees time off. You have to pay your employees overtime. You have to set up benefits. Oh, you can't treat people like that. You can't hire children. No, you cannot throw sawdust in the bread. Government, over and over again, has been the one to stand in the way of this. Now, punishment suits their agenda very well. Very, very. Because punishment weakens us. Punishment is a way of taking power. And when you take power, and when you force people to take each other's power, everybody loses, because stolen power evaporates. Given power that is given freely and in love, multiplies. Power that is taken by force evaporates. And so, evaporates. It goes up the line to the power guys. Really. They're the ones taking the power. And we all get weaker. Coffee with chocolate pudding. Try it sometime. The pudding's always too runny, but it tastes so good I don't care. I buy it anyway. It's from a local dairy, and it's a very inconsistent product in terms of consistency. But flavor is always fabulous, so I just don't care, and I just pour it in my coffee. It's just as good as having the pudding on the side. Better maybe. Yes. There are other ways to get people to do things. Nobody punished people to get them to vote for Trump, did they? No one did that. Nobody's punishing people to get them to say no to vaccines. We're trying not to punish people to get them to self-regulate themselves against quarantine, against pandemics. And I mean, the lessons we learn in this pandemic are going to carry on into future pandemics. You're silly if you think this is going to happen again and again and again as the world gets more crowded. You really haven't paid attention to science class. We need to take these lessons, and one of the lessons is going to be how to get the reluctant people to participate. And we can't do it by punishment. We can't keep sticking people in prison. We can't keep draining their wallets. We can't keep whacking them on the head. We can't keep throwing them in the street. We can't keep ostracizing them and not talking to them, keeping them out of our Christmas celebrations. I've had to do that with pretty much everyone in my life. And it's good for me. I feel really bad about it. It's wrong. I know it. Somewhere in here, I know that's not the right answer. I hung on to one narcissistic sociopath and whatnot. Just, we're supposed to love each other. That's the one thing we all get, but we don't know how. But in a society that can manipulate, a society that has the power to manipulate everyone as much as we've seen, why can't we manipulate each other instead of punishment? Why can't we figure out what we need to give to each other to stop the crime? Welfare was brought in as a way to end crime. Nobody thought it was going to completely end crime, but it sure cut down on petty crime. How often, really? Actually, I shouldn't ask that question because I can only speak from my own experience. I have never been pickpocketed. I have accidentally left my stuff somewhere and had it stolen when it was outside of my view. It's not like there's no theft, but no one's ever pushed me down in the street, rifled through my pockets real quick, and waltzed off with my valuables before I even figured out what just happened. Certainly not little urchins, a la Oliver Twist. Just, read Oliver Twist, okay? And that's what we had before welfare. Welfare was there to help Oliver Twist. In fact, Charles Dickens wrote about Oliver Twist as part of the reform movement to try and get something like welfare going on. And we need welfare. Oh, actually, we need UBI. We need something that's not welfare that everybody gets. Because welfare right now is, again, shameful and punitive. They drag you all into one place. They make you wait way too long. The place is bedraggled and weary and tired and sad. They run you through bureaucratic nonsense that no one's much into. They peer at you like they're going to assess your character. The whole thing is just... It's as punitive as it can be without the bleeding hearts getting the government, laying in on it. Yeah. That's not what we need. We need a less punitive society and a more, I don't know the answer yet. I'll be on a rant about it. But I want everyone thinking about this. And you want to get something to do something for you. Think about it. How do you get somebody to do something? Just think about it. Seriously. Because when you think about a problem, your ideas are shared through your pipeline of spirit. All of us, through our pipeline of spirit. If all of us start trying to solve a problem together, somebody who's capable of doing something about it will get the idea from us. I've seen it happen. I've been watching it happen. For 56 years, I've been a voiceless individual. This is as much voice as I've ever had, and you can look at my view count and see how little it is. And yet, it's remarkable how many of the ideas that I have thunk up, shared out, have shown up somewhere else. And Why would we coincidentally? There's a million possible explanations, other than spirit, of why we might coincidentally both come up with the same idea. Nevertheless, I'm not the only one who has the idea that we're all connected spiritually. Trees are all connected to mushrooms. Okay? That's a new discovery in science. That all of the trees in a forest are actually literally sharing food with each other through a mushroom network. If not direct touching with root to root. It's the trickiest thing. And it's believed by existentialists, by Buddhists, I'm pretty sure. I can read it. You sit down with a Buddhist monk, I think you'll get this from him, that we are all one energy mass. And when I say we, I don't just mean we humans. I mean we, everything that exists. Yes. Even this is a thing that exists as part of this hive mind. And whatever computing ability the atoms in this thing have. Or energy. It's all kind of... And the more sentient among us, sentience is the ability to think. I don't know, there's a little bit of sentience in a computer mouse. I don't think there's any sentience in a glass, but the water maybe. Especially if there's tiny bugs in it. Don't forget, there's tiny bugs in everything. Amoebas. So, think about it. How do you get someone to do something? If they should, or to stop doing something they're doing. You have to punish them. Okay, love you all. See you next time. Have a good show.